Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Minions of the Zoo. I'm your host, JohnnyHellcat, and with me are minions, the One-Time Hammer,
Hello.
Terry Diamantis,
G'day, mate.
Sanguine.
Good evening, all.
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't see you coming either.
And Jack Gonski.
Hi.
So,
And happy
with
Thanksgiving,
you-
everyone. So we'll start with that. And as you were saying, Sanguine?
with him opening up with the G'day today, how long is it before he does the full-blown, you call that a knife? That's not a knife.
I'll hit every stereotype in the next time.
$500 dues.
It was 900, in fact.
Oh, sorry, 900. Damn it.
Hey, Terry, can you stick your head out the window and call the Prime Minister?
Hey, Andy.
So how are you guys doing
How
today?
you doing tonight, John?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, stomach issues aside, it was a pretty good day.
Uh-oh. You're full too.
No, I barely ate.
Oh.
I
Not feeling well?
I was never actually full to begin with. Like it's so weird. My stomach, I can eat a cracker and feel full
Wow.
anymore. Like it is insane how my stomach has been. But actually, I did eat. I didn't eat as much as I usually do on a Thanksgiving palate, but I didn't do too bad. I took a little bit extra of my anti-nausea medication, and before we went to my wife's cousin's house, and went pretty well until about near the end when you take away the nausea, the vomit just surprises you out of nowhere.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean it wasn't bad.
I struggled with gastroparesis for a period of time, about 5 months. So I was on a liquid-only diet because my stomach just would not process anything.
That
I mean,
sucks.
it was nothing. The stomach's fine. It's not like anything deteriorated or separated or bled or anything like that. But it just wouldn't process food. So if you put food in, it would stay in your stomach for half an hour, then you throw it up, no matter what it was. Even I couldn't even drink water.
Yeah,
It would just say nope, and out it would come.
water's really nothing's coming up. That's the weird part. Like once it's in there, it's in there.
I would just like
Not every so often. It like every once in a while food would come up, but about every half hour to 45 minutes, I will be just hit with this huge wave of nausea, and then I'm like over the toilet.
I would just like to point out that the last time I was on Minions of the Zoo, the main topic was food. This time when I'm on Minions of the Zoo, the main topic is vomit.
So the next
Well,
time is going to be
food.
diarrhea.
Technically, we're still talking about food.
Yes.
I mean, it's Thanksgiving. Of course, we're going to talk about food. And of course, Sanguine's here, so he's a foodie. So it's natural to talk about food with.
I will also point out that it's a little bit fitting that Johnny experiences nausea on the day of European betrayal.
Damn.
Have you ever had problems being a foodie, Sanguine? Have you ever had problems with your stomach?
Pocahontas
Eating something-
revenge.
Eating
No.
something exotic or something like that, and it just didn't agree?
The only real gastric issues that I've ever had due to eating something were one time I was at a street festival and I had some past due squid that messed me up for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I can imagine it would.
And that I noticed it was off almost immediately, spat it out, didn't even swallow it, but it was off enough that it still had me sick for a couple weeks after.
Wow.
And then the only other time really was when I found out pigeon should not be consumed, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I know
Really?
people who would disagree with you.
Pigeons.
Yeah, I know.
Pigeons
There's a
are
lot of
ju-
people that like pigeon.
Pigeons are just homeless doves.
Aren't they gamey?
They are somewhat, not terribly so, but they're a little bit gamey. But gamey meat doesn't bother me. I'm not sure what it was that made my body so violently reject the idea of eating pigeon. Especially since
Probably the fact that it's a pigeon.
I was at a restaurant that's in Xi'an that has over 1,000 different flavors of jiaozi. Jiaozi being Chinese dumplings.
Yes.
And I had already eaten my way through a considerable portion of the animal kingdom at the place, and no problem with any of the others. The strange meats that I had, no issue. The strange insects, because I had a locust jiaozi while I was there, no problem. I've eaten bugs. I've eaten very unusual cuts of meat, according to most people. Everything from the standard strange of like frog and snake to the very strange meats of let's see, the ones that always bother people the most are dog, cat, and horse.
You're
Horse
supposed to say
is
fox there.
Tock, cat, fox.
Yeah.
Horse is supposed to actually be very tasty. I don't
Horse
know.
is delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had horse when I was in Japan, and the horse that I had in Japan was amazing. And of course, I've had the standard ones that some people find weird. I don't know why some people find them weird, of duck and goose. And
Duck is delicious.
duck is amazing. Goose, if it's done right, by far the best feasting bird.
I've never tried goose, but I do eat duck, and it's very good.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you crisp up the skin just right. You really have to render out the fat and crisp up the skin. And then it's just, oh my god. And it's a weird bird because most birds, with the exception of like emu and ostrich, you can't eat while they're still red. Or most of them, they just end up pink.
What's
Duck,
that?
you can eat medium rare, and it's amazing that way.
What's that Japanese meat that costs like $1,000 a pound?
Wagyu.
Are you talking the A5 Wagyu?
Wagyu? How's it pronounced?
Wagyu.
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 W-A-G-Y-U.
Wagyu.
The one that is the most well known, at least when it comes to the West, is the Kobe beef.
That's the basketball one, isn't it?
If you're interested in Wagyu, there's a channel called
Are you going to say
is
Guga or sous vide everything?
Guga.
Okay, yeah, Guga and sous vide everything are the same guy. He just has
Yeah.
two different channels.
The Kobe beef gets delivered by helicopter.
He makes Wagyu all the fucking time. Oh, sorry.
And
Yeah,
he does the A5 Wagyu normally. So, how much do you know about Wagyu? Well, in general, Hammer.
Nothing. I've
All
never had
too
it.
much.
Don't know anything about it. I don't even know the name. You had to tell me.
About it. I know every single fact you could possibly ever know about it. Everything.
Well, good for you. If you want to jump in with any additional information, you can.
Damn it! Damn it!
So, Wagyu is rated in its own scaling, and the highest grade used to be called, if I remember correctly, olive. And now they go by a alphanumeric, so it is A5 is the highest grade currently. And there's three main producers that are just constantly trading back the A5 or the top position in the A5 listing. And if I remember correctly, it's Kobe, which everyone knows. Then I think it's Hokkaido, and I want to say it's Miyazaka, something along those lines, is the third one. So Kobe is the most expensive because it's the best known. I think the Hokkaido is the cheapest of them, but it is still right up there. And then the other one's kind of that mid-range in expense. But it, from what I've heard, trying to describe the difference between those three is kind of like trying to explain why you prefer one bottled water versus another bottled water. Where you can taste the difference, but fuck if you're able to actually put words to it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a connoisseur for bottled water. It's either Deer Park or nothing really for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like there are certain bottled waters where I can say, well, I know what that is. Like Fuji
Yep.
has so many minerals in it that you can pick it out easy.
Yep.
But when you get to like Poland Spring and then Deer Park, you kind of get to those bottlers that are using basically the same springs. It becomes indistinguishable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and trying to describe the three highest tier of the A5s is kind of like that from what I've been told, where you can tell a difference when you're eating them.
Mhm.
But trying to explain it to someone else in such a way that they would then be able to taste it and go, oh yeah, this one's clearly a Hokkaido A5.
I'm just gonna say that expensive meat would be completely wasted on me. I'd be like, yeah, it's just beef.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terry's face.
I've had several different things that I've planned out when my income increases by certain amounts. And the one that when my income increases by $10,000 over where I first set it, as long as it's not because everything else has gotten more expensive, but it's an actual $10,000 increase on the amount of money that I have, I'm going to be getting 2 Hokkaido A5s, which for the 2 of them at about £1, it's $500 something.
You know, you can get like cheap steaks for much, much less.
Yes, but they aren't as delicious.
Well, I mean, there's steak.
Yeah, there's. If you're the sort of person that you can't tell between a choice and a premium, just buy choice. Never spend the increase in money. If you can tell the difference, but it's not really all that great, again, just go for choice. But the moment that you can start telling, and it's a sizable difference,
There you go, Terry.
splurge every
I
so often.
appreciate it. Thank you, Johnny.
That is my favorite fast food place.
Actually,
I'm a Chick-fil-A fan, I'll tell you.
And emu is delicious.
I actually have learned through the insurance company by one of my trainers, because and it's probably gonna dox somewhat me, but I learned that one of their I'm not sure who they have the insurance through. It's not. I don't think it's through my company, but there is there's a 3-letter prefix that comes with most of the accounts, and I looked through some of the things, and it's like, oh, I wonder why this prefix is here, and he goes, oh, some members can actually choose their own 3-letter prefix. Can you guess what Chick-fil-A's is?
CFA?
FIL.
It's COW.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and I'm like, that would be awesome. Like, you could pick your own 3-letter prefix. So it's yeah.
What's your favorite fast food place, Jack?
Any place that doesn't kill
I
me.
think that if we're talking about, like, here's the thing. To me, fast food is primarily about consistency. That means I can go pretty much anywhere and get the same thing. If that is the criteria we're talking about, then McDonald's. McDonald's I've always found to be very consistent across their stores. Burger King is shit. It's
Wow.
just awful. I can't stand it. So is Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts is so very disappointing. And here's the thing: because I'm from New England, New England used to be crazy about Dunkin' Donuts, but then something just happened, and it's just gone totally downhill ever since. And
Let me guess, they found out Duncan was like a far right, and they boycotted.
no. The food quality is just terrible. They don't train anyone well enough to do anything. But regardless, I find that Dunkin' Donuts is probably the most consistent.
So what
Okay.
you're saying is that Dunkin' Donuts needs to have more fantastically 80s training videos.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I think that the entire world could do with more 80s training videos.
Yeah,
Is
if you're
the-
going to make a training video, you have to make it ridiculously 80s. I don't care if that means that you have to go out to an antique shop to get the proper camera and then pay your actors more to get 80s haircuts. It needs to be ridiculously 80s.
I don't know. For my job now, all the actors there were like robots. They're all just like, I'm looking for wiring that's just happens to be loose. It's when I'm looking at these people, just because it's. I understand it's supposed to be somewhat like on the nose, but there is a level that surpasses just the ridiculousness of these cases. Like if I had heard one of the statements that this guy was, they were talking about like harassment and trying not to ask quote unquote the wrong questions about someone's race. I would definitely, if I had asked the questions like these guys had asked these questions, I would not be there. Like, just sheer, just
So
the
you mean-
balls on some of these people. Like,
So you mean I can't just look at Bob and call him a hard R to his face?
Oh, you can.
Why the fuck was that a question? I'm trying to be sure.
I'm checking my guidelines here. Nice,
It's-
nice.
Oh, can I also just add something onto the fast food explanation? The reason I go with consistency is because I've had some of the best chicken I've ever had in my life at a Popeyes. But I've also had some of the worst chicken I've ever had in my life at a Popeyes.
Yeah.
For some reason, there was this one time when I went there and I got the chicken tender things or whatever you call them, and I got back. They were practically pork rinds by the time they got back to me. They were tough.
So,
They were disgusting, totally dry. I don't know how they served that to me.
so does Popeyes put spinach in every meal? Like, is that why it's called that?
Yes, that is exactly why it is called that.
I've
Then
had
I
all
will
I
never
can
eat
stand
that.
and I can't stands no more.
And the way that it got that way, Jack, is apathy and a heat lamp.
Yeah.
But-
Is Macca's the go-to fast food in Australia?
I would say it's probably the most famous. I mean, you call it Burger King, but we have Hungry Jack's, which is like the exact same thing. It's the same company.
Yeah.
I would generally prefer McDonald's to Hungry Jack's, but we've got like Kentucky Fried Chicken or KFC.
We got rid of ours.
We've got Red Rooster, which I think might be Australian. I don't think you guys have a Red Rooster franchise over there.
No, but it's owned by the same people who own Arby's here.
Oh, okay. We've got Pizza Hut. I've never seen Popeyes or Chick-fil-A ever down here, so I'm pretty sure there's no branches, or at
No,
least
there's no Chick-fil-A in Australia.
No.
You're
really
too busy
for
being
me-
upside down. You don't get the Lord's chicken.
For me, it depends on the meal. If I'm going to have chicken, it's got to be Chick-fil-A. Assuming that they're open. My Chick-fil-A isn't open very often. If it's burgers, it's got to be Wendy's. And if it's fish, it's got to be Burger King.
But see, that's the thing about Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is delicious and has good quality and is very consistent, but it's not very available, especially if you're in the north. There aren't very many locations. The closest location to me is like a 40-minute drive.
And
is
that's more
cheaper.
if you're in the Northeast rather than just in the North in general.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm rather
mine's
far
close
north,
by.
and I have one fairly close.
Mine's close by, but it's in a university, so it's only open 3 days a week. So it's only open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and it's basically for the students at the university. But I can get on the university, so I can go there. But they're only like 10 minutes away. I mean,
you hello fellow kids when you enter, so that you don't stand out.
You know, all you have to do is be a member of the community that I'm in. You have to live in the county, and that's how you get in. There's nothing special. So anybody who lives in the county that this university is in can get in. It's just if you're outside the county, because they ask you for ID.
Right.
So there's certainly plenty of old people going in there, myself included. Because it's the only one around. And to be honest with you, I'm not near much. I'm out in the boonies, in the mountains, and the closest fast food for me is Chick-fil-A. Everything else is further away.
And I'd be curious to try Chick-fil-A because I've heard nothing but good things about it. So if I ever find myself in America for whatever reason, that is one of the things that I will make sure that I do.
The sauce,
Part of the
Right.
secret,
the
part
Chick-fil-A
of-
sauce is phenomenal.
and part of the secret behind Chick-fil-A is their pickle brining.
Yes.
One
Yes.
thing, I want to know one thing, because, people are always, who hate Chick-fil-A on a moral level, are always going about like, oh, they hate gay people or some shit like that.
Yeah.
What exactly is their argument? Because as far as I can tell, they donate to a Catholic group or a
That's
Christian
it.
group,
That is it.
and that is literally all it is.
Well, there's some nuance there. The Catholic group supports traditional marriage,
Yes.
and the
God
owner,
forbid.
the owner at the time of Chick-fil-A, personally donated, not the company, but him personally donated to that corporate
Gives
that
a
entity.
fuck.
Well,
And
they do.
the gays and the trans people heard about it, and they twisted it from him donating to a pro-traditional marriage to him hating gays.
And besides which, as you pointed out, it's him personally, not the company. So,
He retired. He's not even in the
Yeah.
company anymore.
but it's like, I don't care what the owner of McDonald's does with his own money. It's like, it's his money. It's his business. It's not of any concern to me.
Yeah, unless he is running like a personal human abattoir on the side with his own money, I don't really give a fuck.
Yeah.
How
Well-
ludicrous is that? They're
Well,
treating it like
is it-
if you buy Chick-fil-A that you're like stabbing LGBT people in the streets.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say, and they're exactly wrong.
Mhm.
But isn't that typical? I mean,
Okay.
I don't know how
Yeah.
political you want to get with this, but isn't it typical that especially the trans people, if you say that you don't believe in the trans ideology, well, you're a Nazi. Just immediately goes from 0 to 1 billion right away. I got into
Yeah.
a big conversation with one of my favorite female leftist people online, and I said, if you're not 2,000% woke, you're a Nazi. I said, these people are on your side and they hate you. They're on your side and hate you. How can you stay with that ideology? She liked my tweet, but she never replied.
Of course not.
Well, yeah, the ideology is one of accelerationism. It's one where it has to be going further and further, and not just further, but further at a faster rate.
Yeah. It's expansion of the universe.
Yeah.
See, I have to admit, I do like, I don't know if you want her named, but Hammer's lefty friend, because she is alternating between somewhat reasonable and holy fucking shit, how can anyone believe that? Like, she's like both. And so like, I find myself, half the time I agree with her, and half the time I'm like, are you serious? What's wrong with you?
Gee, I wonder who you're talking about.
She doesn't like to be called reasonable either. To her, that's an
I
insult.
know. You've said that before.
But I like her on a personal level. I like her. Besides what you see between her and I on Twitter, when we do DM each other, it's very personable and it's a much different feeling when we're just chatting with each other than what we put on our public face on Twitter. You know, we kind of, it's a whole, she is, regardless of her face on Twitter, she's not a bad person. She's actually a really nice, honest to God, good person. So every time I get into any kind of argument with her on Twitter, I always temper my reaction because I know that she's not one of those people. The fact that they're holding her down because of this is just proof that she's not one of these people. All she said was, and this is, I need to get back to her on this. All she said was, I don't agree with Kyle Rittenhouse's politics. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this was a couple months, this was quite a while ago. And I said, oh, really? What are his politics? Because up to that point, he hadn't had any. So how can she say she was against it? And they gave her shit anyway. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that he approves of BLM. So what is she, against BLM now? What
no, but actually what happened with that was she said she doesn't approve of his politics, but she still insisted on addressing the facts of the case, like not pretending he shot black people, not pretending that he crossed state lines with a weapon.
Right.
She's like,
she was advocating for
I don't like his politics, but let's stick to the facts of the case here. Let's not make shit up. And
you know why she did that, I think, is because I held her feet to the fire about the Covington accident.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, you wait until you get all the information before you go saying something, because all you're going to do is make yourself out to be a fool.
Yeah.
And I think, hopefully, I had the impact for her to do the same thing with Kyle Rittenhouse. That she didn't come right out and start, oh, he killed black people, blah, blah, blah. Because that would have been the typical response. It is for the left. Everybody on the left does that. So
it boggles my mind that these people can even take themselves seriously at this point.
I still find it darkly amusing and ceaselessly infuriating. The number of reporters and supposed reporters that have come out and said, yeah, I never watched the videos.
Yeah.
You were fucking reporting on this for a goddamn year.
Cough, cough. Young turds. Cough, cough.
Yep.
It's so...
Of
course!
How can you take yourself seriously as a human being and simultaneously act the way that these people do? There's that old rule that you shouldn't assume malice that which can be more easily explained by stupidity. But frankly, what we've witnessed has gone... It has gone so far beyond stupidity to me that I can only explain what is going on with the media as malicious, as they are deliberately keeping themselves ignorant. At the very least, sometimes they don't even do that much. Sometimes they know the truth and deliberately try to subvert it.
I think that's more common. I think it's intentional.
Well, the thing is, the second half of that thing that you quoted is, but never rule out malice. It is occasionally going to be malicious. You can give people the benefit of the doubt.
But the thing is that it is so rampant in the media. That's what blows me away, is that the dishonesty is so all-encompassing.
That's because they're all on one side.
Mm-hmm.
They're all on one side.
Makes me...
MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, all these news, CNN, AP, Reuters, all of these people are all left-leaning. So if one person says it, they all say it.
Well, it goes further than that, because it's not just because they're all on one side. It's that they are confident in the fact that if they say something, the people that go to them, the people that watch them, will not be able to refute it, will not be able to rebut it, because that would require the person to go elsewhere. They are comfortable in the knowledge that their viewers are their viewers and not anyone else's viewers. Because if you thought that your lie would immediately be caught because they would go, hold on, is that true? And they'd pull up the actual source documents, or they would go to another channel and they would hear the other channel say, okay, this is what this actually says, and have it contradict you, you wouldn't bullshit like that. You wouldn't bullshit as brazenly. But the thing is that they know if
that was a strange-looking dog, Johnny.
If the average CNN viewer watches any other media, it's going to be something along the lines of the BBC or NBC. It's not going to be a independent journalist actually looking at the information. It's not going to be a right-wing source that they've labeled as just fucking fascist. It's just going to be someone else within their sphere.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so brazen about it. Because, like I said, if they thought that there was any chance that their viewer would go anywhere else and be able to immediately go, oh, they're bullshitting me.
Well, no.
I think Matt Christensen should be like mandatory viewing, just to provide the counter to all the like news sources.
Have you seen Viva Frey did a video recently about Brian Stetler basically totally contradicting the media narrative on the Rittenhouse trial, because he goes on the news and says, yeah, of course he got off, and we were reporting it as though he was in self-defense the whole time. Just the most... And I watch that and I think to myself, this is doublespeak. This is doublespeak for the viewer, and they totally buy it.
I was totally expecting What a Wonderful World when you said that.
Well, the thing is, it goes back to what I was just saying, where they are confident that their viewers pretty much only go to them and trust them, believe them, and that their viewers have short-term memory.
Yes, that's the thing. That is the most dangerous part of the modern media, is the memory hole. Because if these people remembered the thing that they just watched 5 minutes ago, they would be able to catch inconsistencies like this. And they'd be able to call out the bullshit that they're watching for what it is.
Yep, but because their viewers are just their viewers, and because their viewers have just completely fallen for what they say, hook, line, and sinker, to the point where they will doubt their own memory of something rather than doubt the source, it works. They're able to get away with it. The number of people that it took until watching the case on court TV for them to go, I didn't even know that he didn't shoot any black people.
They were politically black.
That was the most ridiculous part. How much was that lie repeated? That's not even like a vague lie. That's like just flat out wrong.
No,
and it went so far.
I forget her name. Is it like Ida Bay Wells or something like that? Said they may have been white, but they were like, because they were like promoting Black Lives Matter. They're sort of like they're politically black, so it still counts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
politically
I've heard
black.
that.
I won't forget that one for a long. Politically black.
I mean, how much whiter can you get than the fact that he functionally shot a leprechaun that was a chomo? Because he shot a ginger that is what, 5'2"?
And we already know that the left is trying to normalize pedophilia, so the fact they tried to brush that off was no big surprise.
So were his last words, "Ooh, my Lucky Charms."
His last words were unfortunately something that probably a lot of children have heard. Fuck you.
I was hoping his last words were "shoot me," word that I'm not allowed to repeat if we want this stream to stay up.
Yeah, his actual last words in the video were "fuck you," as he's running at the person trying to attack them. And the number of people that I've heard that have tried to pull the, if you want to have this be self-defense, then you have to admit that you would have been giving the same argument if Rosenbaum had killed Kyle that day. If
You mean Jojo?
had killed Kyle. if fucking Gross Quits had killed Kyle that day. And I'm going, Rosenbaum? No, there's no argument there. You cannot if he had killed Kyle, there would be no argument for, oh, it was self-defense. Everything said that it could not be self-defense or defense of anyone else. Every shred of evidence said that no, that is horseshit. That cannot be. Huber, I'll come back to, because that's the one that actually has a more interesting argument. Gross Quits, no fucking way that you can say that he was acting in self-defense, because he was told, I'm going to turn myself into the police. He saw him running towards the police. He saw him not shoot people randomly. Then he saw him get taken to the ground, get brained in the head by a rock and skateboard, get kicked in the face, then get brained again. And only when he got brained that final time, and the guy was reaching for his gun as he brained him, did he actually respond. And then he went up, he had his pistol out, Kyle went, what the fuck you doing, effectively? Aimed at him, he put his hands up, Kyle lowered his rifle. And then it was only when he lowered his hands again and had his barrel leveled at Kyle's head that he got shot, as he admitted under oath in the court of law. There's no way that he would be able to plead self-defense. Huber's the only one that could have possibly, if he had managed to kill Kyle, there might have been an argument that he was acting in self-defense or defense of another, because he did not have direct knowledge that Kyle was saying that he was turning himself into the police. He did not have direct knowledge that Kyle hadn't been just shooting people. He did not have direct knowledge of anything that would make him go, this kid isn't a threat, but had enough knowledge to go, this kid is probably a threat. At that time, it was incorrect, but he had information that said that it was that way. So he could have potentially been acting in self-defense. I still think that that would be unlikely if we had ended up in the other situation, because I'm willing to bet there's more information that would have come out about him that made it go, oh yeah, that probably not. So yeah, that was just driving me crazy every time I heard someone say that.
And Keep It In chat pointed out that Mark Ruffalo, he of the greatest tweet ever, the great JoJo tweet, is actually from Kenosha. So that's kind of cool. Cool to like know.
Interesting tidbit.
Yeah.
And is anyone really surprised that, of course, Hollywood's coming out talking about how they mourn the death of a pedophile?
No, no one is.
No. What do you expect at this point? Honestly, just I just figure if the media is giving some sort of moral judgment, then I just assume that whatever they're saying, the opposite of what they're saying is true. In fact, I usually assume the opposite of what they're saying is true regardless.
I mean, Corey Feldman is like all the proof you need of the rampant pedophilia problems in Hollywood.
Yeah, and they ignore
And
the
the
shit out
response
of
to
him.
him, like the response to him coming out about his abuse is like, yeah, but we don't want people to know that, so just go over there, just go away.
They ridiculed him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest problem that I have is that when it came out about the Harvey Weinstein shit, which was the biggest open secret, everyone fucking knew. People outside of Hollywood fucking knew. We just didn't have the evidence. And we knew that the people who did have the evidence weren't saying shit. The people that came forward weren't coming forward because they had actually been raped. They came forward because they had decided were prostitutes. They decided their wage as a prostitute. They then completed the transaction, got their payment, and then decided after getting paid by the method that they had agreed to that no, it wasn't enough. Now
But the thing with Harvey was like so open and like so well known. Some comedian, like as part of their congratulations speech, said, "Now you don't have to pretend to find Harvey Weinstein attractive anymore."
Oh, that was the Golden Globes, and it was Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais, as well as Seth MacFarlane.
Seth
Also
MacFarlane
did
is
a
the
bit.
one I was thinking of. Seth MacFarlane's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Both of them ripped into it. They didn't have the evidence, but they knew what was going on because, again, fucking everyone knew what was going on. And the fact that the people that were actually victims, because there were a couple of women that were actually assaulted, that he attempted to actually rape, not just, if you fuck me, you get the part.
Yeah.
Because again, the if you fuck me, you get the part, that's prostitution. That isn't rape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
was
willing
one woman
Would
in particular.
I would somewhat disagree.
Go ahead.
Wouldn't that technically kind of fall under like rape by coercion?
Nope, because rape by coercion would be
Or is that
doing
like
the
if you
use-
if you do this, you can keep your job type of thing?
rape by coercion would be more if you do this, you can keep your job, or if you do this, or if you don't do this, then you'll never work in this town.
Yeah.
But they weren't saying that he was telling them that if you don't fuck me, you will never work in this town. They came forward saying that he said, if you fuck me, you can get this part. That's them being given a reward if they do something, which to me is a hell of a lot like, if you fuck me, I'll pay you $100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as I can
It's
tell,
prostitution.
99% of what Harvey Weinstein did wasn't illegal. There was one person who actually came forward who did have a legitimate claim, wasn't there?
The Italian actress, right?
Yeah.
That's the one that you're thinking? So,
Yeah.
do you guys all know about the Italian actress?
No.
I can't remember her name, unfortunately. But she was actually someone that he assaulted. What happened was She was a fairly well-known model that was trying to get into acting. And she was offered a chance to audition by Weinstein. They happened to be in... Oh, go ahead.
Is this Asia Argento that you're talking about?
No, this is the one that was offered a possibility to audition because they were in the same town. So he said, yeah, come up to my room, you can audition. She apparently went thinking that it was an audition. He assaulted her while she was there. She ran away, immediately went to the police, reported what just happened. The police said that, well, it's currently he said, she said, and asked if she'd be willing to wear wire and try to see if it happens again. She agreed. She wore wire. It happened again. The police had the recordings of it. She again was able to get out without getting raped, and nothing came of it. It was just kind of forgotten.
Money.
Yep. She was actually someone who, yeah, she was a victim of Harvey Weinstein. She didn't agree to have sex for a part. She was assaulted, not once, but twice, once with audio recordings of the incident.
And yes, it was Ambra Gutierrez.
Yep, that's the woman's name. And no one talked shit about that. No one bothered with that. No, they were going, well, Alyssa Milano had to suck his dick in order to get a part. Sounds like a Alyssa Milano became a whore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and no one said you had to.
Yeah.
Assassin in chat is saying that Mira Sorvino was blacklisted for refusing Weinstein's advances. So if that's true, then that's kind of what you were saying before about rape by coercion.
And the instances where there was retribution for refusing, absolutely, they're victims. The people that, in my mind, the people that had retribution are victims. The woman that was assaulted twice with evidence and nothing happened, she was actually a victim. And then I would say that the third major class of victims in this instance are the people that would have gotten a role if not for someone deciding that, yeah, I'll be a prostitute.
Yeah.
They're actually the forgotten victims because no one really thinks about that.
Yep.
That someone who would be more qualified and would have gotten it on merit missed out because some whore sucked a dick.
Yeah, someone who would have gotten the part based entirely on their own merit, not on how well they suck cock, not on anything else, but just their ability to act and act well.
But no, they had to go ahead and pull a Lewinsky.
Yeah, I would consider them more like soft victims because at the end of the day, if you want to run your company by hiring whores, then that's your decision.
It's fine if you're a pimp or if you're a...
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying that if it's your company and your money and you wanna be a pimp, that's your business.
Hey, it's art out
like
there.
I said, if you're being a pimp, yeah, sure, absolutely. If you're a civic engineering firm, how well your new engineer can suck cock is not really viable as a
No. I think you misunderstand. What Jack is saying is that if you want to run your company by hiring whores instead of qualified people, you are welcome to run your company into the ground by doing so.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, the quality suffers, and that will have a marked decrease on your profits. So another company is going to come along who is willing to make money instead of have their dick sucked. and they're gonna wipe you out, and you'll deserve it.
Is it weird that I'm going to kind of stick up for the girls here a little bit? It's the one guy you wouldn't think would stick up for the girls is going to stick up for the girls. Well, first of all, I'm not entirely sure Mira Sorvino was ever blacklisted because she did do the Replacement Killers and she'd been on episodes of House and stuff like that. So maybe she didn't get the big parts, but I don't know if she was outright blacklisted. But if you're put in a position where you have to make a decision between furthering a career that you believe you deserve and on talent probably do deserve, but you have to sell your soul to do it, I think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a good thing to be put in a position where you're given the option of screwing someone in order to get ahead. And I mean literally screwing someone, not just screwing them over.
Well, and it's not like she hasn't stopped working. She's been working
that's what I
since
said.
then. So,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
But-
like even past 2008, she's been steadily working ever since.
Yeah. Well, see, the deal here is that this is a fault, once again, with the leftist ideology, because they've made it a big point, and we all know that Hollywood is very left, and they've made it a big point to separate sex and love and male and man and woman and female. They made a point to separate these things into component parts. They insist that female and woman are not the same thing. So they've made sex a transactional feature of their ideology. And if that's true, then what is wrong with the casting couch? Because that's a simple transaction. You want this? Give me that.
No, but
Pretty
I think that's
straightforward.
what's being said is they weren't assaulted. They negotiated a
They made
deal.
it a choice. Right. Right. But in the leftist ideology, that's perfectly fine. So why does it even exist? Why not just say, oh, yeah, well, she wanted that. She was willing to buy that. She used this to get it. That everything's good.
Because
Amber,
you're forgetting one thing. The left needs to virtue signal. And if throwing Harvey under a bus means they get to virtue signal to the entire world, they will do
let's
that.
find a way to down the white man more than that. But
Yeah, I was about to
maybe
say,
both.
You're forgetting the all-important, all penis in vagina intercourse is rape narrative.
Yeah.
That is constantly popping up.
The problem is that all rules by the left can be dropped at the drop of a hat. All of them can be dropped to serve the greater purpose of either
Power.
being a victim or making yourself seem at like a very surface level like you are standing up for a victim.
The greater good.
Yeah.
If you can do one of those two things, then all other rules can be dropped instantly.
or
Because it is
amended as needed.
all about narcissism. It's all narcissism. Every single action that they take can be defined through their own personal narcissism.
Just a side note, I will always remember Mira Sorvino just because I remember riding the bus to school when the Replacement Killers came out. And one of the rental places in town had a local ad, and they called her Myra Sorvino.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is wrong on so many levels. Like,
I have a big crush on Mira
That's her new
Sorvino.
name now. That's her name.
but yeah, I can't not. Whenever I see anything, that ad just plays in my head, and I just get mad. Like, it's just because, like, I don't know, it just drives me nuts.
That's not how you say it.
Yeah, but
I
I mean,
think the
like-
only thing I've seen her in is Romy and Michelle's high school reunion with her and Lisa Kudrow. I think that's the only movie I've seen her in.
And Hammer, you said that you have a question?
No, I just said that Mira Sorvino I had a crush on her. Still do to some point. She's just very attractive to me.
Oh yeah, no, she's definitely.
I can understand why Harvey went for her. I guess that's what I'm saying. Kind of a compliment, kind of not.
You're good enough to rape is probably not the compliment that it's intended as.
She was amazing in Replacement Killers. She was just like, oh my god, this woman's gorgeous.
But
And it isn't quite the you're good enough to rape. It is you're good enough to offer you money or position to have sex with you.
it's funny though. But when I put it in stark terms, like I did earlier, that it's all about narcissism. The other rule that seems to run very consistently is that the narcissists stick up for other narcissists and have nothing but disdain for the genuine article. The people who commit serious crimes are treated like heroes because the people who commit all the crimes are the same brand of narcissists that the left embodies, which is why the left chose to make a hero out of Rosenbaum and the rapist, Rosenbaum was the rapist.
Rosenbaum was the chomo, yes.
Yeah, but it's very weirdly consistent because they make heroes out of really bad people. And it's because those really bad people reflect who they are deep down as very narcissistic.
George Floyd is being turned into a hero.
Yeah.
He's been turned into a goddamn patron saint.
Of course he has. Meanwhile, there are black children who are killed every day in Chicago who get zero attention because they are genuine victims.
Because
and genuine
they get killed by other black people. That's not news.
Yeah. They can't get the time of day because they are genuine victims and they do not reflect the left's the left's inherent narcissism, and as a result, it's this weird sort of creepy self-perpetuating machine. I don't know.
See, it is partially because they don't give a shit about those victims, but there's another aspect that I have to mention because I mentioned it when people pull there are terrorist attacks in these locations every day. Why aren't they big news? Because they're there every day. It's one thing when you have a fire in your bedroom. It's another thing when you have a fire coming out of the gas burner. When you have a gas burner and there's a fire there, you go, yeah, that's kind of, it's on. Why wouldn't there? It'd be a bad thing if there wasn't a fire. How the fuck? It's common. No one gives a shit about it. If there's a fire in your bedroom, there's not supposed to be fire in your bedroom. That isn't something that commonly happens. So it becomes a big deal. When there's a murder in an area every day, then the fact that there was a murder there yesterday isn't news because there's a murder there every day.
That only shows just how surface deep the progressive movements caring about these problems really are. Mm-hmm. Because if it lacks that sensational element, they simply don't care.
Yeah,
which is why Chicago doesn't get any attention, and which is why coronavirus was so blown out of proportion,
and why rifles are viewed as this ridiculous. Everyone is killing people with rifles. Do you know that more people die falling out of bed every year in the U.S. than are killed with rifles?
I believe
I'm not even remotely surprised.
Yeah, it's almost double. It's something like 350 to 400 people fall out of bed and die from falling out of bed every year in the United States. And
so common sense bed control then?
Yeah, it's 250 for the average number of people that are murdered with a rifle.
So when are you going to implement common sense bed control? It needs to happen.
Yep.
All beds must now be on the ground.
Mhm.
Everyone must sleep on the floor. And you
Yeah, I
have to
think
get
you
a
just
card.
abolish them.
You have to get a card that proves you sleep on the floor, or else you can't buy it at stores anymore.
And I say taller beds for everyone.
Oh, no, what we need is the Gadsden flag with the snake, except it's on a bed. Don't tread on me.
Don't fall off me.
But yeah, it's one of those things that no one ever really gives any thought to. It's rifle deaths are always shocking. They always hit the news because, yeah, there's 250 of them a year. When a death is very rare, it becomes newsworthy. When a death is really common, it doesn't become, or it ceases to be newsworthy. When it was in New York in the, I want to say, end of the 70s, early 80s, and you had certain sections of the city where every morning you would have 5 bodies brought out of that section of the city. Not just 5 bodies because someone died of natural causes. No, 5 homicides brought out of certain sections of the city every morning. The fact that there were homicides in the city wasn't news. It was something that everyone just went, oh yeah. The only time that it became news was when there was something strange about it. Like, are you guys familiar with the New York Zodiac?
Is that Ted Cruz with a different accent?
So, we all know the Zodiac Killer.
I know everything about the New York Zodiac.
No, you don't.
I know everything about the Chinese
Every
Zodiac.
single thing.
Okay, so what are the Zodiac signs that he actually killed?
The Zodiac signs that he actually killed were the one with the bear.
No,
The one
because there is no Ursa Major Zodiac sign.
Yes.
There's
That
no
you
either
know
an
about
Ursa
Sanguine.
Major nor
That
an
you
Ursa
know about
Minor.
Sanguine. Jack is the expert here.
It is.
I know everything. I think that you're wrong.
It is in the Zodiac in hell.
But yeah, there's the New York Zodiac was a copycat of the Zodiac Killer, only he seemed to be a bit too stuck on the name because he tried to kill people in order of their Zodiac sign.
See, that's commitment. I can appreciate that.
Yeah. And he tried to claim that he was the previous Zodiac. He was not the previous Zodiac by any stretch of the imagination. But
Because he
due
wasn't
to
Ted Cruz.
Yes, due to the strangeness of his crimes, that became news. Because it was interesting. There was a fucking serial killer. And there was a serial killer who apparently was killing people based on zodiac signs. What the fuck? That was news. The person being brought out of the seedier, shittier parts of the city, the 5 bodies being brought out every morning, that wasn't news. Because, yeah, 5 bodies brought out every morning.
Oh, I just realized you have a Second Amendment that protects your right to own guns. What amendment protects your right to own beds? Because I think this is the big thing.
I think that the founding fathers clearly didn't understand the evolution of bed technology.
Oh my goodness, CNN still has that clip up.
Which clip?
This is what
to quote Green Badger Outdoors, the fully semi-automatic.
A classic.
CNN still has it up. It has 34,000 dislikes.
But I thought the dislikes were gone.
Well, apparently
No.
not.
I can still see him.
You can only see them on certain things.
Every video I've looked at, I've been able to see the dislikes. I have not seen a single one where they've been removed yet.
Interesting.
Let's see here.
I do not see any dislikes on, or the ability to dislike on this very video.
Oh, there is the ability to dislike still. It's just not supposed to tell you the
Well,
number.
yeah, it doesn't give you a number though.
Yeah, it doesn't give you a
on-
counter.
on-
It just says dislike.
Yeah, which is the thing that made it obvious bullshit when they were saying, we're doing this for the mental health of our creators. So you're telling me that you're going to make it so that they're the only ones that get to see how many people hate them?
No, but on my screen right now, 17 likes, 0 dislikes for Minions of the Zoo 1474, and 1.8k likes, 34k dislikes on the one that Johnny linked. So yeah, I can still see him.
First of all, I just want to say, frosted glass beds were meant for malicious.
Yes.
But
They're called bunk beds, and where do you find bunks? You find bunks when you're talking about barracks. Where do you have barracks? When it comes to the military and when it comes to militias. These are military-style beds.
Yeah.
well, as long as it's a bed with a wooden frame, we don't want any of those scary black framed beds.
Yeah, it's just absolutely fucking ridiculous, the shit that keeps on coming out.
But it's funny because it seems as though the most common threads amongst the left are 1, narcissism, and 2, a surface level understanding of everything. Of everything. There is no actual nuance within these interpretations.
Surface level understanding's pretty goddamn generous, if you ask me.
Sorry about that.
It's like one of the least flattering descriptions of a human being I could possibly think of. Narcissistic and doesn't know shit about shit.
Now the fact that that this guy allowed the gun to be used in that with that stance and the way he held it, just my god. If my dad saw me holding the gun like that, he would hit me with the butt of the gun.
Well, I'll give him this much. He didn't pull a binger.
Well, that's only because there wasn't a jury present.
Yeah.
Just the sheer ignorance of guns from the people is absolutely amazing.
It blows my mind that someone can legitimately argue that they should ban guns and not even understand a single thing about what they are. That to me is ludicrous. It would be like if I walked in and told you that you were no longer allowed to be doing whatever it was that you were doing anymore, and you're just sitting there like, I don't know, playing some game that this person never heard of. Just walk in, no, you have to stop right now. What you're doing is evil.
So, in other words, actually pulling a different type of finger.
If I heard what the hell you said, I'd probably agree.
I said, in other words, pulling a different type of finger. So, you played
Pulling his binger
Call
finger.
of Duty with your friend? Did that train you for this shooting? the
Ugh.
fuck?
Oh God. Just. Ugh.
Jack Thompson is gone. We needed someone new to take his place.
Yeah.
So we got great value Littlefinger.
Someone who's still barred. For the
At
time,
least
for the
currently.
time being, yeah. No, I told, I think it was Simius, actually, if you take everything away from the trial, take away Kyle's race, take away, the race of the people that he shot, and take all that out of consideration,
Mm-hmm.
and what you have is an attorney who's willing to cut corners and do what he wants, rather that's inside the law. He'll go outside the law to convict this kid, and that should horrify everyone.
That should be an immediate butt pucker factor moment.
Well, but the thing is that if you don't care about what you're doing, so long as it gets your political enemies, because you're narcissistic and don't understand what the hell it is you're actually doing, then that's not a problem. I mean, imagine having that little foresight. That you can't see how this could potentially hurt you in the future if lawyers are allowed to play shit like what Binger did and just get away with it scot-free.
You mean the classic old game of, we changed the rules! Huzzah! They're using the rules we changed! What the fuck?
Mm.
Well, didn't that happen with, what do you call it, the filibuster, where they changed the rules on that, and then someone said, you'll regret that in the near future, and then sure enough,
Yeah, McConnell.
Yep.
Yeah, they changed the rules for the filibuster. They changed the rules for like 27 different things. They set the precedent for, you can have an executive that is entirely by executive orders rather than actually going through the law and having it go through the House and Senate. You can do all that, and then the moment that anyone else started doing that, they were going, you aren't allowed to do that. Why are you doing it that way?
The chat is just great, Mr. Dax. You claim to be against beds, and still you're standing on bedrock. I am very smart. Huff's own farts, as said by a debunker. And Frosted Glass. When I think of Binger losing the case, it reminds me of the line from Die Hard. I'm not the one who just got butt fucked on national TV, Dwayne. Sorry. I added the Dwayne.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really happy. What's the main lawyer that's leading the charge for the disbar Binger?
Oh, is there a movement for that?
Yeah, there's a lawyer that actually started collecting all the shit in order to put forward a packet for disbar Binger.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
It was one of the guys that was on Rekeda's streams for the entire case.
It's not going to go anywhere. At the end of the day, these people are being covered by their friends, and it's just not going to go anywhere.
It probably won't, but I'm still hoping. And it's something that, if it doesn't go anywhere, then there's absolutely no downside for Binger and those like Binger.
Yeah.
Because this was a clear-cut case of self-defense. The other one that people bring up a lot is the other instance of a Hispanic male shooting someone. And it's Zimmerman. That was the guy's name, right? Zimmerman?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Trayvon Martin thing.
Yep. And that was also a fairly clear-cut case of self-defense when you got down to it. Do you know what became of the prosecution in the Zimmerman case?
What?
Other than the fact that they lost. Do you know what happened after?
Jack Gunsky knows everything about what happened.
Yes, I do.
The prosecution lost. The DA that tried the case was, according to all accounts, supposed to massively lose their re-election bid when it came up until the case. Then they won it by a rather commanding majority of the minority communities, as well as a fair selection of the yuppies, effectively, voting for her. Everyone else on her team also got higher placements. Some of them went to the private sector and were highly placed in the private sector. Some of them stayed public and ended up with high placements in the public sector. They all got rewarded, despite losing a case. Losing a case that the information went, yeah, this is fairly clear. It isn't something that really should have gone forward. They all got rewarded for it. Which encourages them to put forward more clearly political cases rather than actually looking at a case and going, what can and can't be prosecuted. So the reason why the one lawyer is putting forward the disbar Bingers, he doesn't want that trend to continue. He wants there to actually be some sort of
Public accountability.
Not just public accountability. He wants there to be some punishment for knowingly putting forward a political case, so that it will make it such that in the future, a up-and-coming prosecutor will look at a case like this and go, that's career poison. Not doing it. Or at the very least, if they do end up suing it, they'll do so honestly rather than violating the defendant's rights left, right, and center and playing fast and loose with evidence and actual legal matters.
The thing I'm worried about is, what if, as a result, no one ever points a gun at the jury ever again? Like, that wouldn't be very funny for Twitter. What would we laugh at?
I'm sure something stupid will come along.
You'll still have.
I think we should get the new funny thing before we get rid of the old one. Is all I'm saying.
Or at least,
but you'll still.
Or at least wrap it in a Ziploc bag and save it for later.
I could do with a fewer funny things in this world. I think we have plenty of funny things to laugh at, and we can just laugh all day long at those, and maybe just get rid of some of the other few zingers.
And Terry, you don't need to worry because you'll still have the full semi-auto guy. You'll still have people like that.
Yeah.
Talking absolute shit. It'll just be doing so in the wild rather than in a courtroom while trying to send an 18-year-old to prison for life.
That was funny, though. He's just pointing the gun at the jury. It's like, I
It
know
was the-
nothing about guns, and even I know you don't do that.
Yeah. It's one of the primary rules of
It's the prime.
using
It's
a gun.
rule number 1.
Laser rules, rule number 1.
What?
Well, I know rule one is no poofters.
I thought rule number 1 is assume every gun's loaded, and then it's rule 2 is the laser rule.
No. Rule 1 is no poofters. Rule 2 is I don't want to catch anyone mistreating the yabos while anyone's watching. Rule 3 is no poofters. Rule 4 is I don't want to catch anyone not drinking in bed after lights out. Rule 5 is no poofters. There is no rule 6, and rule 7 is no poofters. So I'm glad I could clarify.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like Jack might be looking up to see which of us is right.
No, you're probably right, but in my mind, rule number 1 should be never point a gun at anything you're not trying to destroy or willing to destroy.
Yeah, the laser rule is functionally that, but also taking into account everything in front of and behind what you're trying to shoot. As if you're firing off a laser that'll just cut right through everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
So-
dad is he was very much in the thought that if you are pointing a gun at anything other than a target, I'm going to murder you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was ingrained. The fear of God was planted into me that if I mishandle this gun, like I still have that fear to this day that he's just gonna appear behind me to just beat the shit out of me. Like,
Frosted suggests that Binger should prosecute someone who used a trebuchet. I'm sorry, Frosted, but trebuchets were available to colonial period weaponry, so they technically do fit under the real Second Amendment, not the fake Second Amendment that we use today.
I never killed anyone with my trebuchet, and no one can prove that I did.
actually, I had because the company that I worked for before I got the one I have now, they had what's called cow pie bingo. They used as a sort of to do a benefit where you have a certain amount of numbers, and then you put a cow in a pen, and you have a grid with numbers on there, and wherever the cow takes a shit, you know, that person wins that prize. And I suggested because we had so many pieces of machinery just break down that we should have a trebuchet built, and we launch it, and wherever the machine lands, you know, even if it falls apart into pieces, wherever it falls, and if a piece lands in a spot, someone gets that prize as well. I wouldn't be opposed to that. It gives us a chance to break something, and it's for a good cause.
Mm-hmm. Also, the fact that it exists and your description of it is one of the most country things that I've ever heard. Cow pie bingo. The fact that that is a thing. Goddamn, that is country as fuck.
Yeah, that's I can't deny that.
You were just missing references to a pickup truck and
Your dog
Ford
dying.
or Miller.
I was gonna say your dog dying.
That's the one I would have gone with as well.
Or your girlfriend dying and your dog leaving you.
Well, I should invite Skep up and we can play dueling banjos while we wait for the cow to take a shit.
Yeah, there's. So
No, that's just
I'm just
Frost.
trying to
That's
think
just
where-
it depends on where he's standing before he fills the diaper.
Wait, who's wearing a diaper? Oh, with Joe. Okay. I was wondering for a split moment there, why the fuck did you put a cow in a diaper? What's the purpose of that?
So they don't make a mess.
Yes, cattle nappies.
And now just have a name for a product. Gotta go Joe's Nappies.
Frosted suggests that they play cow pie bingo at the White House, but use Joe instead.
Yes, that's what we're
Yep,
talking
that's
about.
what we were talking about.
Oh,
Yeah, put him in a grid, and wherever he happens to fill his diaper, yeah, that's the charity wins.
and if you can involve the Pope, that's an extra 10 points.
The Pope's clearly the bingo caller in this situation, let's be honest.
God, why do we have such shitty people running the world?
Yeah.
Because
We
we're
have-
fucking morons.
We have the shittiest people in the world running everything. Why?
A communist Pope, a president that
Dirtbag.
shits himself in front of said communist Pope, also breaks wind for an impressively long time in front of a royal family member.
A dirt bag and a gas bag. How about that?
But there's been no mean tweets.
Yeah.
Thank God. Thank God there are no mean tweets. Everything is just so much better now that there are no mean tweets, guys.
What, are you telling me that you wouldn't prefer being in the situation that we are right now, where there's no mean tweets? Sea bass is now $50 a pound. Goddamn scallops are $42 a pound. Gas prices are increasing. Then be in a world where, yeah, you have to deal with the president being a bit of a cock online, but everything's cheaper and you're getting paid more. You mean that you don't want that trade? What are you, fascist?
Gas like $5 out in California.
Yep.
Remember 2016 when Trump was elected, and then every single progressive type freaked out all at once, and we're like, 2016 is the worst year in human history.
Yep.
And I was just, and they kept coming up with all these bullshit reasons, and I'm just like, no, look, celebrities die every year. You're just angry because you lost.
Yes.
That's it. That's all it is. You're just angry because you lost, and nothing bad is going to happen, and nothing bad did happen. And, you know, things were relatively good for 4 solid years. And then the month after they put their own guy in, everything goes to absolute shit. It goes to absolute dog shit instantaneously. And 2020 obviously wasn't a great year, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
What, you think that we shouldn't have just abandoned American citizens to a terrorist-run state?
Yeah. But
Do
it's
you just want war forever? Because those are the only two options, clearly, as I've been told. The only two options are either a forever war, or we have to pull out the military, then we have to prioritize getting any sort of refugees. And then maybe if we have time, we'll get our citizens out. And we'll just leave the equipment.
I'm just so disappointed with that. This year, I think that this year, and we're going really back to the title, I think this year was worse than 2020.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. It was just so dog shit. And it's not because the wrong president cheated his way into being elected. It's because he's done such a phenomenally shitty job that he's basically wrecked the place.
Yeah, like I said, when you have certain products having an over 200% price hike, that's not a good sign. When you
at the very least, if you have the bread lines, it means at the end you get the bread.
Except
So
when
that's a
they run
good
out of
thing.
the bread before you get to the front of the line, which is how those lines actually goddamn work.
I really can't think of one thing that Biden has done correctly.
He hasn't even taken a shit properly.
I go boom boom in my pants.
For fuck's sake, he fucked up walking upstairs.
3 times.
And it was all in one go. It wasn't 3 separate times. No, it was back to back 3 times.
I think that he did do one thing right. He chose Kamala as a vice president.
We have
Nobody, because he knows that if he gets out of office, we're stuck with Kamala.
we have Frank Drebin as the president.
I don't get that one.
You ever seen Naked Gun?
Drebin was more capable than Obama, than Obama as well, but definitely than fucking Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, we have Mr. Magoo as our president.
Coincidentally,
because-
also played by Leslie Nielsen.
See, Mr. Magoo doesn't work either, because Mr. Magoo accidentally had things work for him.
I would say that Joe Biden had things accidentally work for him pretty phenomenally.
I don't know, he seems fairly fucking miserable.
Fair enough. I mean, God's sakes, this is a man who President Obama said, and that those situation could be bad enough that Joe Biden couldn't fuck it up worse. Isn't that what he said, or something like that?
Never underestimate Joe's ability to fuck things up.
Yep, that's it. That's the one.
You know, coming from the well-spoken. And clean. Was it clean and well-spoken?
and had no scandals.
No, there was the tan suit.
Oh yeah, except the tan suit. The only scandal the man ever had.
But the real question is Obama an example of someone from the great Negro League the pregnant pause after saying the Great Negro.
I wonder if people are if the news is gonna try and tell us that Joe's presidency was without scandal.
They will.
If he could remember it.
Mhm.
No, it's
The question is,
oh, go ahead.
the question is, which one has a longer memory? The mainstream media or Joe?
It's a good question.
Because I can see that being a complete toss.
Yeah, that's just.
And you were saying, Johnny.
I was gonna say there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't have agreed with Trump in office. I mean, as far as the memory hole as that goes, because I couldn't tell you one thing from another, honestly. But yeah, it's just been a shit show.
See, the problem that I have when it comes to Trump is everyone seemed to focus entirely on what he said and ignore what he did.
Mm-hmm.
When those two things came into conflict. And that's not the right way round. If what someone says and what they do come into conflict, you judge them based off of what they do.
Like, he was not an eloquent speaker at all.
No.
Like,
But-
you could tell when a speech was written for him and when he just would wing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he wasn't an eloquent speaker, but he was an effective speaker.
And I will say, one of my favorite lines from a presidential speech in the past decade or so, or more than a decade, does come from one of his speeches. It comes from his inauguration speech.
You mean
And
wasn't,
it was...
You mean it wasn't fool me once, I never be fooled again?
Nope. One of my favorite lines that I've heard a president say is, when you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for racism. That's a really goddamn eloquent line. And it's something that people didn't give him any acknowledgement for or any credit for. That is a
it's
fucking well-delivered line.
Yeah, of course they didn't give him credit for it. It promotes patriotism.
Yeah.
Which by his critics is viewed as jingoism.
Promotes patriotism and denounces racism, which he did many times.
Oh, yeah.
Such as, and I don't mean the Nazis and the racists, who should be condemned totally.
Wait, are you suggesting there was more to that line than what the media said?
Yeah, it's almost like they just cut off 90% of it.
It's you're not suggesting the media cherry picks their lines, are you?
Here's the quote. There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, you can't get fooled again.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
Bush. W. Bush.
That was
I do love that.
That was W.
That line's good. But and Devil Fruit Zero says nationalism and patriotism are indistinguishable to these people. The thing is that there's several different things that people mean when they say nationalism, and they're mutually exclusive. Because there's an old version of nationalism that was an almost entirely positive version of nationalism. That is the framing of, if we try our best, we will succeed. We will beat the fuck out of everyone else. We just have to try. That's a really positive form of nationalism. Then there's the really shitty form of nationalism that the Soviet Union, the Nazis, the Italian fascists, and several other groups started to use, which is the, if we aren't winning, that means that the system is rigged against us and we need to completely destroy and remake the system in favor of us.
So the Democratic version.
Yes,
Yeah.
The Democrats share the exact same version of nationalism, only they don't define it as nationalism because they do it as party ideology rather than viewing the nation as a whole as their people.
And the sad part is I mean, I don't know why. Well, I know why. I just don't know why it can't be seen as. I think we need to do a reset and get back to the point where, you know, we're on the same team. We just have different ways to go about it.
That would require us to do something that we haven't been willing to do in goddamn ages.
Welcome back, Doctor.
Are you guys familiar with the difference between a statesman and a politician? It's an old school distinction.
Jack?
Hammer probably is well familiar with it. Jack is going to claim that he knows everything about it.
You don't know
despite
me.
all evidence to the contrary. And
A statesman is a man from a state.
The man who represents the state.
Yep. It is a man who represents the state and does what he does for the good of the state. That used to be one of the main things that we would look for in a person that we were electing to office. We would look for statesmen. And for a while, we were getting more statesmen than we were getting politicians. That changed, and it's been ages since we've had a proper statesman in office. I'd say probably one of the last statesmen was killed during the Jonestown incident.
Yeah, well, he took his life into his hands and paid the price.
Yep. And for those who don't know, he was a representative, right, Hammer?
Yes. I can't remember for who, though.
Yeah, I can't remember what state, but there was a representative that had received a bunch of letters from his constituents who had family members that ended up going to Jonestown. And
Jonestown
they
or
were
Jamestown?
Jonestown. The cult one.
Gotcha.
The drink the Flavor Aid one. So
Leo Ryan,
that was the representative?
congressman. Yep.
So he got a bunch of letters from his constituents saying that they had family members that went to this, and they were really worried because something didn't seem right. And he decided that he would go and check it out himself. He had a small group of people that he took with him, and he went to see the town, went in order to... No, Jim Jones was not a great statesman. That is not what I said, Frosted class. God damn it. I said the last great statesman was killed during the whole Jonestown incident. But he went and he spoke with people. A show was put on for him as communist governments, because Jonestown was set up as a communist... I'm not sure the proper way of phrasing it. It's effectively a theo-communist state, because it was a theocratic state, but it was also a communist place, so theocratic state. or Theo-communist state, rather. But he went to check it out. He was told by several people that they wanted out. He said that he would take them home. He worked out a deal with Jim Jones that he would take them home. As he went to the airfield, Jim Jones sent several of his armed goons in order to kill him. And kill him they did, and they killed pretty much everyone that was with him. Then they returned, and that was when the rest of the Jonestown incident took place, where Jim Jones, while giving a insane sermon, forced all of his congregants, if you can call them such, to
Members.
drink a poisoned cauldron of Flavor Aid, and those that would not drink it were shot.
Yeah.
See.
Cyanide least. 900 members.
Showing
Yep.
here on Wikipedia. Yeah, I'm vouching right now. Following the mass murder-suicide, Jones was found dead at the stage of the central pavilion. He was resting on a pillow near his deck chair with a gunshot wound to his head, which Guyanese coroner Cyril Mutu, said was consistent with suicide. Jones's body was later moved outside the pavilion for examination and embalming. The official autopsy conducted in '78 also confirms death as suicide. His son stated that his father may have directed someone else to shoot him. The autopsy showed levels of the barbiturate phenobarbital in Jones's body, which may have been lethal to humans and had not developed physiological tolerance. He was cremated and scattered in the Atlantic.
I would just like to give a shout out to the biggest victim of the Jim Jones massacre, and that was the good people of Kool-Aid, who would forever be associated with that disaster, but did not actually have even tangential relationship to what actually happened.
Yeah, because it wasn't even Kool-Aid. It was knockoff. It was Flavor Aid.
On the final morning of Ryan's visit, Jones's wife, Marceline, took reporters on a tour of Jonestown. She was found dead at the pavilion, having been poisoned.
Yep.
I will give Jim Jones this, though. At least he took a whole bunch of communists out with him.
That's kind of like giving Hitler credit for being the man who killed Hitler.
Speaking of, hey Terry.
Hey,
It's like Terry. That's like your favorite joke.
Well,
I got in trouble.
that was the
No,
tweet that
I got in
trouble.
trouble. I got suspended off Twitter for making that joke.
Was this recent or was this an old suspension?
Semi-recent. So I forget the exact wording because I had to delete the tweet, but something like, I guess you could say Hitler was a hero because he rid the world of a great evil.
Nice.
Jesus.
That's kind of like I'm trying to remember what show it was, but there was one of those segments where they're trying to show how stupid the man on the street is.
Yeah.
Now,
And
sorry to interrupt, but Green Badger, if Monkey can come into the chat or come into the stream and mention his dick, then yeah, you can go right ahead and do that. Other than that, no one is mentioning it. There
But
we
yeah,
go.
they
That's the disclaimer.
somewhat of a failed disclaimer in that effort.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And let's see, what was I about to say? Oh, it was a segment meant to show how stupid the man on the street is. And the question was, if you could, would you like to shake the hand of the man who killed Hitler?
Right.
And most people responded, hell yeah!
It's one of my favorite ones of that is the Man Show did a thing, a petition to end women's suffrage.
I remember that. I remember
and,
that.
So many people signed the petition.
I went to a college and did it, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
I remember that.
they got this Asian woman involved, handing out the petition, trying to get people to sign it. And then eventually someone was like, no, they're making fun of you. Suffrage is the right to vote. And most of the people were just blindly signing it, but there were two people who were like, dude, what the fuck?
Because suffrage does sound like a bad thing.
Yeah.
Which is why most people now just refer to it as the right to vote, rather than we're trying to expand suffrage.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good. And they could have picked a better word to mean the right to vote.
Did I miss movie? Were we talking about movies? Did I miss something?
Yeah.
We were talking about Mira Sorvino. And
Oh yeah, earlier.
Weinstein,
Yeah.
and that's Hollywood.
Has anybody seen the last James Bond?
No.
I have not.
No Time to Die.
No, I did watch the Ghostbusters movie.
Afterlife.
Yeah.
All right, so we have to exchange reviews then. You have to tell us about Afterlife, and I have to talk about James Bond.
Actually, it was your tweet that I saw that actually is the title of the stream.
I have chat up, but I don't have the stream up.
The Curse of the 20-Year Sequel is the stream title.
Oh, I guess the Matrix deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for that, and I can't tell if it's going to be good or not.
Probably not.
As far as the cinematics go, it does. It looks good. I don't know what the fuck they're going to do with the story, but
The effects, the camera angles look more advanced, but yeah, we don't know what the story of the acting. It's of course Keanu's going to be in it.
Yeah,
but I couldn't. I was like, that's why I put in my tweet. Please be good. Please be good.
Mm-hmm.
It needs a good one.
Johnny.
no
Johnny,
Lawrence,
be good.
no Lawrence Fishburne.
They didn't
No.
even
I
ask
noticed that.
What's gonna happen is it's gonna be painfully mediocre, and it's gonna be like a Star Wars all over again. The first Matrix was very good. The second two movies were dog shit, and then they're gonna come back with another movie that's gonna make the dog shit movies look good by comparison.
From what I heard, they never
not.
even asked Lawrence Fishburne if he wanted to come back. They just decided, nope, we're not going to have him.
Well, have you guys heard anything about what the story is going to be?
I have not.
Oh.
It wrapped up pretty conclusively.
Yeah, but what I've heard of rumors, there's a website called Dark Horizons that you can go on, and if you're a member, you can participate in their chat. And the guy who runs it is kind of like a movie insider. Mm-hmm. And he says that the rumor is that the Matrix that we saw is inside another Matrix.
So they're inceptioning the Matrix?
Yeah, he said that the one that we're going to see is the actual matrix, and the one that they were in was a matrix inside the matrix.
We'll see if you crawl inside your asshole that much, eventually people are just gonna lose interest.
Well, that's what the rumors are as far as how they're gonna pull off resurrection. Is that in this part of it, he never really died. So we'll see. We'll see that. I mean, I saw James Bond. I know what that's like, and you've seen Afterlife, and I've seen pluses and minuses to Afterlife. So what was your reaction to it? Don't give too much away, but just what you thought.
Without overly spoiling it, I thought the spirit of it was there.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a couple parts where I kind of rolled my eyes a bit.
All right. Were there slow spots?
The beginning's really kind of like it starts off fine, and then when you get to the introduction to the characters, it just kind of like okay.
Well,
okay,
exposition,
Slams
right?
on the brakes.
Get on with it, and then it kind of picks up from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of like a kid Ghostbuster thing, but at least it was more respectful to the characters than the one that shall not be named.
Yeah.
2016.
Would you recommend it to somebody?
Yeah, I definitely would.
And would you recommend it to a fan, or would you recommend it to somebody who's never seen Ghostbusters before?
It could work either way. It wouldn't. You wouldn't be disappointed if you were a fan. It's not, the greatest movie ever, but it's definite. It's true to the story. It's not. It's like it did take place 20 years ago. It's it's modernized.
Well, Bond was good. I would recommend going to see it. It wasn't slow at any part. A little confusing sometimes. I have vowed to watch it a second time for the things that I might have missed. It is not full of leftist ideology crap. The whole 007 as a woman thing is not what you think it is. It turns out not to be. It's not, Batwoman. Now that it's a 007, now I'm a woman, and now everything. No, it's none of that. It's none of that. So that's good. I would recommend going and watch it. It should be interesting to see what the next Bond movie is going to be.
Yeah, I just have to say that I have had a bunch of issues with Bond movies recently.
Mm-hmm. You'll see something in this Bond movie that you haven't seen before. You'll see James Bond happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest slap in the face when it came to the Bond movies, in my opinion, was the fact that they revived Q's character. They gave that someone else.
Yeah.
It should have... I would have been perfectly fine if they had made him R, if they had made him any other letter of the alphabet.
I think John Cleese was R, wasn't he?
Yep, John Cleese was being groomed as the replacement, and he was going to be R. But I would have been fine if they had gone, we decided to go with someone else who fit the tenor of the movie that we want to make this time better. And they went for that. Would have had absolutely no problem with that. But the fact that they kept the tech guy being called Q, despite the fact that Q had been one actor.
Desmond
since
Llewellyn.
Inception. Yep.
Yeah. But isn't M always the person in charge, regardless if it's a guy or a girl?
M is always the person in charge, but M had changed several times already. M started as a guy, became a different guy, became a woman.
And then became a guy again.
And then became a guy again, yes.
So there's a precedent there.
Is the Daniel Craig set a prequel or a continuance?
It's a continuance from the last movie.
It is, yes.
Okay.
It's the same money penny, the same Bond.
Okay,
It
'cause
is.
I was always under the assumption that it was a prequel to the previous movies.
They
Well, it
rebooted the
is
franchise with Craig,
Effectively.
right?
Well, it's kind of yes, kind of no, which is also where that kind of annoyed me. Because when
Like,
they did
I understand
the
you
movies,
kind of.
when they did the movies, they decided to go back and tell Casino Royale, which is supposed
Right.
to be Bond fairly early on in his career. So they went from brand new Bond with their brand new Bond in Casino Royale to suddenly he is the effectively most grizzled spy. So it's somewhat of a prequel because they went back to brand new Bond. But
Right.
it's then also somewhat of a continuation because they had him be in the very next movie one of the most experienced, if not the most experienced 00. And also, they did something as kind of a cheeky nod that just fell flat for me because what they did was they brought in one of the older Bond cars in Skyfall and mentioned that it was a previous agent's vehicle. Which suddenly, that means that each of the actor changes for Bond is now a different agent in the continuity. But at the same time, James Bond is not a code name, and they made it very clear James Bond isn't a code name because his fucking family estate, Skyfall, is the Bond family manor.
Okay,
somehow,
we no. Hear me out. It's like a George Foreman situation where all the kids, you have James Bond, and then he accidentally has some kid, and that kid gets named James Bond, and that kid gets named James Bond. So really, they're all just children of the original James Bond, which is Sean Connery.
Well, the Aston Martin DBS shows up in this episode as well. Sanguine.
Yep, I'm just letting the siren pass for a moment.
Oh, that's yours. Okay.
No, that wasn't me. That was
That's me.
Oh, it's
Terry's
Terry.
being
Of course.
arrested.
The Aston Martin DBS V12
no
that you're
mean
talking
tweets,
about
Terry.
is back again.
Okay.
So you'll see it again in the when you watch the new movie.
Okay. Yeah, it was one of the things that bothered me about it because they seem to be wanting to play it both as a continuation, a prequel, followed by sequels, and also as a complete reboot. And you have to choose if it's going to be, nope, this is all the same story. We're going to do a prequel, and then we're going to do sequels.
Sanguine. I can explain all of this in one stroke. Shitty writers.
Oh, I thought you meant you
Yeah,
were going to
but-
have a stroke.
That's my job.
That is one of the
Give me a
things that
minute.
I'm effectively bitching about. That it seems like they had ideas, they didn't quite think through their ideas entirely before they started.
Well, if anybody wants to watch it, I have
Oh,
it.
I'm still planning on doing so because I've seen every James Bond movie. So
Yeah.
I stopped after Skyfall.
I stopped after Casino Royale. But then again, I
Yeah.
was never really a huge Bond fan.
I don't really like Craig that much.
yeah, neither did I.
The only good Bond was Roger Moore. And when I say, like, Sean Connery was a good Bond, but the only good Bond movies had Roger Moore because they were, like, so
Moonraker?
ridiculously over the top. It can't be.
Moonraker.
I did like my favorite is From Russia with Love.
Okay.
Yeah, the Craig Bond I was not the biggest fan of. But I do have to admit that it had one of the best action scenes. The very first one. That very first chase. That chase was fantastic. Because it was not Bond and someone else that had the same abilities as Bond. They made it very clear that they had different capabilities. They had different ways of thinking through things, which so many movies failed to do. So you had the guy that Bond was chasing after, who was very light and agile and doing all that ridiculous parkour and contortion shit throughout the entire chase. And then you had Bond, who was just a goddamn tank and would shoulder through things rather than jumping up, grabbing on a pipe, flipping himself through this tiny little opening and then landing on the other side, which I appreciate, because so many times you see one person do it and then the next person does the exact same thing in order to navigate the obstacle, whereas now you'd have different people doing different things because that's how people are different. And yeah, Craig didn't really have a proper Bond feel to me either. Frosted.
Well, I have a bad take, I guess, because I like Timothy Dalton the best.
Timothy Dalton was good.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton, I think, had...
Speaking of bad takes, I got to take a nap.
Okay.
Well, we're past the 2-hour mark. So
Okay. Well,
we should probably call it. And we'll go with parting thoughts. Start with you, Jack.
Why does everyone always choose me first?
Because adjectives.
Damn it! Chunky. That's my final thoughts. Chunky.
Sanguine?
I'll leave off with my standard. If you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you.
Terry?
I still say Hitler rid the world of a great evil.
And Hammer?
I'll go with my standard. No matter where you go, there you are.
And I am trying to find something, but I'll just go with a quote from Keanu Reeves since we were talking about The Matrix, and I'll go with whoa. Anyone have anything to shill before we?
Well, I do.
All right, go ahead.
Me and Terry do.
I mean, I considered the Minions as one thing, so the fact that we're on Minions right now...
I'm still going to shill the Wednesday show, absolutely.
It's a little redundant.
Myself, Terry, and... well, not everybody watches every show, but yeah, myself, Terry, and Genty talk politics and news. 9 o'clock on Wednesdays.
Right.
In that case, I'm the keeper tomorrow. Tune in. I tend to do somewhat of a
What time's your show?
casual, informal. It's the same time as most nights, so starting at 10:30 Central,
All right.
11:30
Eastern.
And also, just because there's shilling opportunity, might as well throw out my food-based Twitter. There it is. It's in
Wait,
chat.
can you
click.
eat a Twitter?
It is the Twitter where all of my cooking and food porn will end up being put up, separating it out from my standard. That way, if you just want to deal with the food, then follow that one. If you want to deal with me arguing with idiots and just liking a lot of weeb shit, then continue following my standard one as well.
But can you eat a Twitter?
If you name a bird, Twitter, absolutely.
Because it's food based.
You need
It
to
is
go to bed,
based
man.
on food.
Yeah, I know. End the show, for Christ's sake. Put me out of my misery.
No, let him suffer.
No, I was gonna say, yeah. You can catch me on Thursdays. If you're just turning in now, you're late.
I'll be turning in a minute.
And
Turning into what?
A pumpkin.
all right. And on that note, the zoo is closed.
Bye,
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night, all.
Have a good night. Awkward pause.